Hi guys, what's up? So, do science fiction stories accurately foretell the future? Are the science fiction stories that you've read and heard about, that try to predict the future, that try to tell you what the future is going to be like? There's going to be space travel, there's going to be robots, there's going to be all this other stuff. But does it accurately predict the future? And I would say part of it predicts the future. The actual future is actually sooner than the stories predicted. But other things about the future are like further away than what stories predicted. Like flying cars. There's no flying cars right now. There's no technology for flying cars yet. I would say there's not going to be any technology for flying cars until there's like an anti-grav engine where cars just float because of all the propellers and because of all of the engines it takes to fly a car. It's like a helicopter, modified helicopter basically is a flying car right now, or a drone with a lot of propellers. It's like that's not really the flying car of the science fiction, where like cars float and they just like float above the ground a little bit. And if they float, I mean, if they can float a little bit above the ground, they can float further up. So we didn't have that. But then technology went into an unexpected direction. Technology created the internet, and all pre-internet, I'm saying like every pre-internet science fiction story did not predict the internet. Like people, they predicted very intelligent computers that were able to answer complicated questions. We have that sort of, we're going to have that really, really soon with AI, where computers are just going to be able to be smarter and smarter and smarter. But no one predicted the internet. They did predict, having phones in your pocket all the time. They did predict walking around with phones, but that was like an easy prediction because phones kind of like evolved to get better and better and better, and it was like obvious that at some point we're just going to be able to like carry our phone and it's going to use a radio signal to connect with other phones. So that was predicted, but that was predicted to be like way further off in the future. Like no one predicted it to be at the time that it did. And I really think what happened was it's because of at the time there was a lot of science fiction stories in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And at that time, this is where a lot of things happened with space and getting to the moon. Before that, in the early 1900s, people did not know that they didn't have jet engines, and they did not know without the jet engine, basically you can't get to the moon we didn't have any other technology besides a jet engine to do that. And some people thought that you can get shot out of a cannon. If a cannon's more powerful enough, the cannon can shoot you out of a cannon and then you'll get to the moon. But, obviously a cannon will just shoot to a certain area and then it'll just drop. So that didn't work. But it was the jet engine that really, really made people realize they could get to the moon. And the thing is that what happened was, though, when people got to the moon, what happened at a certain point was that what we thought, like 2001 A Space Odyssey, basically said we were going to get to Jupiter in 2001, right? We didn't even, it's 2019 and we haven't gotten to Jupiter. We're not even close to getting to Jupiter. We haven't gotten to Mars yet. Jupiter is after Mars. So we don't have space stations. We don't have we don't have anything on the moon. We don't have like a moon station. And the thing is about moon stations is we have the technology for that. And they just didn't do it. And what happened was everyone kind of got surprised when the space race, because like science fiction is very, very heavily technology, very, very space, and like how far into space can we go measures how like sci-fi we are, like how far away in space measures how much technology we have, like we're like thinking in the future, thinking like there might be space people out there, aliens or people from other planets, who are going way like from one galaxy to another, traveling from one galaxy to another in minutes or even faster, or maybe even instantaneously, And we see that as being like, wow, they must be so advanced. The thing is, they could just be advanced in spaceships and not really being advanced in anything else. If we don't actually need to be advanced in anything besides spaceships to actually travel through space. We're advanced enough that all we need is a good spaceship to fly from place to place. Like everything else is pretty much sorted. Everything else we already have. Everything else we need. We just need the spaceship. So we don't need to be more advanced technologically. We don't need to be more advanced evolutionarily. Like maybe the next generation of people are going to be smarter or somehow like think faster or think better than we do. We'll be more primitive. Like if we think back to like cavemen, basically cavemen, as far as we know, what they're saying about cavemen and what they could tell about cavemen, they can't really tell because they're not around anymore, is they basically were us. Like they were just us with like low tech, and this makes sense because there are people right now that are just as smart as the people right now that are doing technology, just as smart as like, modern civilized people. They're just as smart as modern civilized people, but they're living in a very primitive like structure. They're living in a tribe. They're living like in a rainforest. They're using maybe stone tools, like maybe like homemade arrows to shoot animals to eat, just like walking around and like eating stuff, like eating fish off of the pond and stuff like that. And they don't have any technology. Like they have fire, they have tools, and they have huts. But the thing is that they're just as smart as we are. It's just that their language is advanced. They're just as smart as we are because they do have advanced language. They might have writing, they might not have writing, but they just don't have a lot of technology. And what's interesting, like it basically, if that's the case, you can give a caveman a spaceship, teach them how to fly it, and they can be flying through the galaxy. And we see people that are flying through the galaxy as being very, very technologically advanced. And somewhere during the 80s, because all of our space technology was funded by the government decided that, it's not a priority to fund space projects anymore. We got to the moon and that's it. And after that, the whole space thing was actually just being funded by companies that needed to put satellites up there, so they would like, so basically like, the space shuttle, which is all we had was that space shuttle, was basically just hired to, fly up and leave satellites there for companies and corporations, right? I mean, yeah, they also did, made the Hubble telescope, and then they improved the Hubble telescope. They also made a space station up there, which was like an international space station, which is like really good because I feel like it's a symbol of peace between the countries of the world. You got America, Russia, China, we got Australia there, England, we got all of these, people from Europe, all of these different countries that have astronauts up there all working together. So that's cool, but are we really advancing? I don't know. Like, I don't think they're really advancing when the space shuttle was launched in the early 80s and it's still the highest technology that NASA has. I mean, come on, that's like been a while since it's been like over 30 years, almost 40 years, and it's still, they haven't advanced it at all in 40 years. So I really see like spaceships are really taking a very, very long time to develop. And certain technologies are just staying the same and not really developing, like fuel burning cars or, but the thing is like with some technology like fuel burning cars, it's like, it's good. It gets you from place to place. It does its job, but if you look at a lot of the stories, science fiction stories, 2001 Space Odyssey, 2010. Their promise, we in 2010 we went to Jupiter and found that obelisk thing was like a something from another planet that we didn't understand what it was. But in 2001 we went to Jupiter, and we still haven't gone to Jupiter. And I feel like, yes, some technology has really advanced. Computers have gotten smarter. Computers are advancing because there's so much money in computers. Everyone buys computers. Right now there's not a lot of money in space travel. People, it's not popular right now. Like, people want to go up in space, but it costs about, I think it's like, to go up in space is like $100,000 for one flight into space, and no one can afford that. Like, you have to be like really rich and want to go up in space to go up in space. And how many people is that? Like, no one has really done that. No one has actually went up in space by buying the ticket and going. So what's going on, and this is what's taking a long time, is I think that, like, people did not realize that NASA and all of these other organizations that were funded by the government were just going to stop advancing. It became this, we've had this thing, like, people have this, like, times of advancing, and then they have this times of, like, not advancing. People have this times of getting, like, being, like, advancing scientifically, getting better inventions and things going and things progressing. And they have other times of just stagnancy where nothing gets, everything is the same and nothing advances. Nothing gets any more than that. Like the light bulb. The light bulb has advanced, but it's still the same light bulb as Edison invented. We don't have wireless light bulb. We don't have wireless electricity. All of our electricity has wires. We don't have the wireless thing, because then things would need batteries. They could just wirelessly charge themselves up and whatever. But that's what it is. So certain things where there was money with computers, those things became very, very advanced very, very quickly. But places where like there really wasn't any real need for advancing, like cars, because basically people were happy with their cars. People liked their cars. People liked they didn't care that they'll gas up their car. It's nice that they're having electric cars now, because electric cars were the future. But people were just happy with their gas cars. They would just, like, they would drive their car. They'd like driving their car. And I think even when you have electric cars and more advanced cars, some people are still going to drive gas cars, because it's like, it's because for the same reason people still ride horses. It's fun. It's fun driving a gas car, and it's fun, riding a horse. But of course, more people are going to use electric cars. But it's always like, where the money is where the advancement is. And, like, right now it's taking people like with space, all of a sudden, and in the past few years, there's been an interest in continuing our space development. And the thing is, the governments are not going to do it. It has to be private organizations that are doing it. So we have SpaceX, and then we have Virgin Galactic, and we got a few people that are doing this thing. They're building space shuttles, and they're building spaceships. They're planning to go to Mars, and having, like, places on the moon, and having, like, a space station, like more space stations and stuff like that. Not just, like, going up in space to install commercial satellites. And I found that was, like, the most disappointing thing ever. Like, that they were using the space shuttle to just, put satellites in space for corporations. I mean, it's okay when it's, like, for GPS, but basically it was, like, for a television signal or something like that. Or, it's just like, like, why even do that? Like, why? But it's okay to do that, but it's not okay when that's all you do. It's not okay where, like, all you do is put a, corporation. This is the things we were warned about in cyberpunk, literature, in cyberpunk stories. We were warned that Private corporations are just gonna like take over technology, and technology is gonna go into the direction of these cyberpunk corporations, and everything is just going to be commercials for these companies, and all technology is going to work for these companies and stuff like that. And that's what was going on. It was very cyberpunk, where, and it's still happening like that. Companies are, using our space program to, for their own advancement, I mean, which is fine. It's okay, but it's not okay that that's all the space thing does. I mean, that's all that, like, that there are, space programs do. You can't just do that and that's it. So testing new rockets, getting rockets to land like they were doing, getting a plan to go to Mars is good. The Mars rovers were actually really good because it got us to go there and stuff like that. And those Mars rovers were like actually pretty cool. However, the thing is that we have enough technology right now to go to Mars, and we should definitely do it. And the reason, what I love is the reason that they're going to Mars is to advance the space traveling capabilities of people. And that is the most science fiction thing I have heard in a long time. And it really definitely does take people who are inspired by science fiction to advance us technologically. We can have the technology, but if we don't have the funding to advance those technologies and get things together, we're never going to do anything. Someone has to, if we want a space station, somebody has to pay for it. If we want, a space station on the moon, someone has to pay for it. If we want to go to Mars, someone has to pay for it, and it's not going to be the governments. It's going to have to be corporations. It's going to have to be companies that feel like it's their mission to go out in space. People that feel like this is important, and there's a lot of money to be made in going out in space. You can, for one thing, you can mine asteroids, you can mine the moon, you can mine Mars if there's like valuable minerals there or valuable resources there. And it's just that it's real interesting how, though, we've predicted, science fiction stories have kind of predicted things to go a certain way, and these went a different way. Think about like phones and stuff like that. I think phones is not like, as advanced as they are, it's gonna go to the next level of communication between people. And I don't know how that's gonna come around, because like phones are already like high tech enough, and I don't know if we actually need something more high tech than phones, but it's gonna come. There's gonna be more high tech. That trend of technology, which is like improving phones and getting phones to be better, is going to become more and more and more high tech. And it really does takes the vision. It takes someone that wants to do it. And when the government wanted to do it, it got done, because the government wanted to do it. It got funded. It was done. Like they wanted to put a man on the moon in like 2 years or something like that, which is some ridiculous amount of time. They've never done it before, but they were like, we're going to do it in 2 years. And they did it. They wanted to do it. They funded it. They got it together to do it, and they did it. And they did it, and that was it. I don't know. What is it? Because when we got to the moon, it was just a rock. There was nothing up there. It was just a rock with no atmosphere, with no water, with no people. There was no one living there. There was nothing that people were like saying, oh, there's gonna be life on the moon. It's like there was nothing there, which is interesting. It's like nothing there, so people are like, why even bother going there? There's nothing there. There's no one there, But it is, I mean, there are certain things about being on the moon which would make money to entrepreneurs that want to go up there. There would be things up in the moon that would make people want to go. For one thing, the gravity is so much fun. It's like 1/6 the gravity of the planet Earth. It's just like you can actually just jump around, and that's awesome. Who doesn't want to jump around in a spacesuit on the moon? That sounds amazing. That sounds like I would go there just to jump around. That's like the first thing I would do, just jump around. And then look at the Earth from space. Look at the Earth from the moon. It's like a ball. It's like amazing looking. Just to see the Earth and just to look up at the stars and see the stars in a way, like when you're on the dark side of the moon and the sun is on the other side and there's no light, everything is dark, right? And you just see the stars. You just see the stars like in every direction. Like you can see the stars from Earth, but there's an atmosphere. You can't, it's hard to see through the atmosphere, and there's always light. And it's hard to see through that. Even on dark nights in the middle of nowhere, when you see like all of the stars, it's still not as many. It's not as bright of a star view as you can get from the moon. And there can be a total thing there. There could be parks, recreation. There can be so much fun there. If they have an actual lunar, just start building stuff. Like you'll have to be inside of these lunar module things because you can't actually walk around without a spacesuit. There's no, there's no atmosphere. You can't walk around. So you have to be indoors, or you have to be in a spacesuit walking around. And I think that like they can actually like put stuff on the moon. And the thing is, it doesn't take a long time to get there. It actually takes a few hours by rocket ship to go to the moon. So there's a huge potential for not only mining, they can just find rocks. What if there's gold up there? What if there's like valuable crystals or minerals or some kind of rocks up there that if they're going to want to mine, they're going to want to send ships up there to mine it and robots up there to mine it and stuff like that. So the moon potentially is a lot of fun to go to, going on a space station for a week and just like being weightless and just kind of like, they could put a restaurant up there. They could put like, a gym up there. They could put tennis courts. They could put all kinds of stuff up there, People go on to, yachts and ships, and that never happened before. Like, it was like a ship was like, there was a ship, there was a crew, there was a sail, and there was nothing to eat because there was only fish. There was nothing to drink because there was only salt water. There was just nothing there. There was no, like, nobody went on a ship because it was fun, and then they made cruise ships, and of course, like, there's going to be cruise starships in the future where just ships that are just going to like go into space, fly around a little bit, go by the moon, go by Mars, come back, go by some astronaut, just go into space, fly around. That's going to happen, And what's interesting is also they predicted robots, which is happening, but that's not going to happen until AI, because that's taking a long time to do. And I think the reason for that is people don't want robots to replace people, because like when there's robots, there's really going to be a lot less reason for people to do work. And people want to do work. They don't want robots taking their jobs, like they want to do work. And if robots can, make food or build a house or like teach your children math, something like that, there's going to be that's another job that then no one's going to do, So once computers get intelligent, robots get more advanced, there's going to be more of them, and they're going to, do all of these menial tasks. They're going to deliver the mail. They're going to take out the garbage. They're going to pave the roads. They're going to clear the snow. They're going to pick you up in a driverless car and take you to where you're going. These are all things that the more we advance into robots, the fewer jobs are going to be for people. There's going to be fewer things for people to do. There'll be some things for people to do, and they'll probably do more like expensive if things are done by a person. Some people are going to want to, have a driver in the car and not go into a driverless car. Some people are going to want to go to a restaurant where there's a chef and people make food. Of course, there's going to be like some kind of jobs, and people are going to prefer, going to people and working with people than having a robot do everything. But that's another thing. As much as robots are advancing, people are kind of scared of them. There's always like stories about robots taking over, robots become, and of course that is like so you could see that happening. And with our present technology, you can see it happening. Computers getting smart, robots getting efficient. There's going to be robot armies. I mean, like, they don't want to send people out there because that's dangerous, right? But they'll send a robot. They're doing it now. Drones, robots, they're sending them out there to scout around, to do all kinds of reconnaissance, but in the next 10 years, robots are going to be so advanced, but I feel like that's taking a long time, and they're not making these really, really advanced robots, even though they could have, if they would have worked on them more. There's just not a lot of companies doing that, and I just think because people are just afraid of robots, they're thinking that robots are going to replace people, as far as work is concerned. Robots are going to replace people. They're going to do their jobs, and right, even driverless cars is going to remove the need for taxi cab drivers, cab drivers. Driving a cab is a job that anyone can do. You just got to get a car, or you got to drive under someone else's car and pick people up, or there's always people that need to be picked up in taxi cabs. As many taxis as there are in a city, there's always more people than there are taxis. Everyone's had the experience where they're trying to get a cab and they can't because there's people in all the cabs. So there's not enough cabs, But when you have driverless cars, there's just going to be no need for that. They're going to know where you are. You can just click your phone and they'll come, and then there'll be a car that's in the area that's just going to go ahead and pick you up. And then the phone's going to say, oh, the car's 2 minutes away. I'll pick you up at this corner right here. And that's a driverless car. And once it happens, it's just because it's easier to get a robot to do stuff than people, because you have to pay people. But when you get a robot, you don't have to pay them. You just put them to work. That's what they're there for. They're machines that are just advanced enough to do someone's job. Machines just get more and more advanced. Eventually, machines will replace everyone's jobs. So what are we going to do then? I don't know, but it's going to happen, and it's probably a good thing. Because think about it, machines will do everything for you, So that's probably a good thing. You can even have maids who are machines that will clean the house, make the beds, do the dishes, cook the food. Who doesn't want that? That sounds amazing, right? Yeah. So that's so that's something where that sounds really, really good. But on the other hand, it's what are people going to do? Really, people like to work. What are they going to do? And people are going to have to find other things to do, basically. It's going to happen. There's just no way that they're going to stop it. They can't put a law saying we can't have robots because it's going to take people's jobs. Because it's capitalism, and you know what? People are going to want robots. They're going to be like, well, we'll figure out the job thing, but we want robots. Everyone wants robots. Especially if they can do housework, clean the streets, all these little things, be a fire department that just drives, puts out fires, robots that can go into a fire and put fires out where people don't have to do that. So yeah, but what's interesting is they didn't really, what they thought was going to happen by 2019, there is one kind of future, stories that are kind of being very, very really, these things are becoming more and more real. And these are the cyberpunk genre stories where the companies are really taking over industry. Companies are taking over technology, and they're just buying out, putting signs everywhere. There's people have technology implanted into their arms and stuff like that, where they're interacting with technology. People are they have these goggles, they're wearing technology, they're very, very, they're so in technology that you need technology to actually, to actually be around and interact with other people and stuff like that. And these corporations and companies are just taking over. They're being highly technological. They're making everyone work for them, and it's not a good thing. It's causing a dystopia, and which is the opposite of a utopia. Utopia is a great place to live, and a dystopia is a really bad place to live. Also, they're predicting the weather's bad. It's always raining. That's another thing we should really watch out for. Whether whatever side of like people believe, oh, this the climate's getting bad, the climate's getting good, or whatever it is. Well, whatever is the fact, the truth is we should be looking out for that. The climate, we don't want it to just be raining all the time. We don't want the weather to always be bad, overcast, rainy, just bad weather all the time, especially caused by some kind of technology. We don't want to do that, affect the weather in a bad way, because who wants bad weather? Nobody does. Then that's whether that technology causes or not. We still don't want bad weather. Everyone can agree on that. So that actually is becoming more and more true, where things are like a dystopia. Things are just like, where like things are just getting bad. Like, it's not like people are not getting together, but at the same time, you see people getting together and making the world better. You also see dystopia where like companies for money are just making things a lot worse. People do things to make the world better, but people also do things that make the world worse. And a lot of that is done for money, so, but you can make the world better for money too. So, hey, that's good. I do see, I think what's going to happen with the mission to Mars, it feels like it's possibly going to kickstart another generation in space travel. Like I feel like once that happens and like SpaceX does that and private organizations do that, I feel like that's just going to be a thing. People are going to go to Mars and back and go to Mars and back. It takes 6 months to get to Mars, but it also took a long time to get over the Pacific or over the Atlantic to the other continents between Europe and North America. Either way, whether you're on the Pacific or the Atlantic, that still took like over a month or two, I think, to be in a boat, in a ship, and a spaceship is way more advanced. So it's probably easier to be in a spaceship for 6 months than it was to actually be in a ship or a boat for like 1 month or 2 months, because it was just hard to do. I mean, there could be a at least like with the ship, with spaceship, you kind of like know what's out there. It's not like there's no waves, there's no sea monsters, there's no like hurricanes really, as far as we know. It's really clear travel. You just go and you get there. But traveling over the ocean, there was storms, there was just ways to capsize boats and stuff like that. It was way more dangerous, and they did it. So people can do it because they went over the Atlantic and the Pacific in boats. And a boat is just a piece of wood with like a house in it that you can actually live in, so and they did that, and they actually did that. They went overseas, and whether it took them, and they lived through winters that took 3 months, 4 months, 5 months to pass. They lived in a hut surrounded by snow, with no food anywhere because the animals left. No plants were alive because it was snow. The fish were not under the water. They went further deeper in because it was too cold up there. Good luck trying to find food when it's middle of winter and there's snow everywhere and there's no animals or plants or anything or fish or anything to eat. At least we know, like in a spaceship, there'll be food. They'll stock it with food. They'll stock it with oxygen. They'll be like, people will be able to breathe. People will be able to eat. People will be able to sleep. They'll be in space. It's dangerous, but we kind of know how to do it a little bit. And I think it's safe. It's probably going to be safer than going in a ship. I mean, just a sailing ship over the Atlantic or Pacific from North America to Europe or anything like that. Or to Asia or anything like that. And it does feel like this is a possibility. And what's interesting is that, like, I feel like right now is like whether like science fiction really like foretells the future, and I really think also science fiction inspires people to create the future. Science fiction is what's inspiring Elon Musk to make that space voyage. You know, science fiction is what's going to want to make people, not just one person, not just Elon Musk, but people, because it takes more than one person. It takes a lot of people that have this vision that go, we want to build spaceships, we want to go into space, we want to explore, we want to see what's out there, we want to do it because we can, or do it because we should do it, you know. And that is going to really change. That's going to propel us forward. Yes, it takes money, yes, it takes technology, but it also takes the mission. It also takes people that want to sit down, get together, go, we want to do this. We can do this. This is our dream to do this. You know, we're gonna go into space. We're gonna make a better spaceship this year than we had last year. We're gonna make a better computer that can run the spaceship. You know, we're gonna make a restaurant on the moon so people can go and eat there. You know, we're gonna make a hotel there. We're gonna make a space station that's in space, orbiting the Earth, floating around, so people can fly over there and dock and experience weightlessness. You know, so as much as, you know, like science fiction tries to predict the future and say, well, this is going to be in the future, so this story is around this kind of technology and this whatever it is, it's also that science fiction creates the future by talking about these technologies. And when people read those stories, they're thinking, you know what, we can do this. We can invent this. And people go in and think about this for years and get together with other engineers and shit and people and try to invent something that was in a science fiction story or something like that, you know, which is amazing. So I think, yes, you know, even though science fiction tries to predict the future, science fiction actually creates the future by inventing the idea of these high-tech things that people actually end up inventing after a while. And it just takes people that want to do this and people that realize that they're going to have to do it. No one else is going to do it. Government's not going to fund it. If they want to go up in space, if they want to build spaceships, if they want people to be spacefaring, you know, if they want to see another planet, you know, they're going to have to sit down, get together with other people that want to do this and make it happen. And so that's why I think that science fiction, not, you know, predicts the future, but also creates the future. And it's people that are inspired by science fiction that really do take us in the right direction, because science fiction warns us about which way not to go, but science fiction also shows us which way to go. So if you guys like my video, please like and subscribe to my channel, and let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts or you thought anything. Thanks for staying through the whole video, and I will see you guys later. Check out my other videos, and I'll see you guys in the video. Take care.